In a shocking move, Mojang recently announced that they would be doing more frequent and smaller Minecraft updates, harkening back to a time prior to the Microsoft takeover of the company. Alongside this, a new format for Minecraft Live was announced, including multiple events per year and multiple updates, or as they're calling it, drops per year as well. For many, this change is seen as good. One of the biggest criticisms of Mojang is how slow they are to update the game, typically once per year. This means we'll be getting back to more frequent updates throughout the year and a greater focus on community feedback. During Minecraft Live 2024, we see the new drop, Bundles of Bravery, officially bringing the bundles to the game after 4 years of it being delayed and announced, as well as hardcore mode to Bedrock. As a first drop, this feels a little underwhelming, though it kind of makes sense. It's just the stuff that they're currently working on. Sure, hardcore for Bedrock is pretty cool, and it's awesome that a lot of people have access to this harder version of the game, but if you're playing on Java, or if you're playing with some previews, you've likely had access to bundles for a long time now. While new to some, it's really not new to others. The big event was the announcements of the next big Minecraft update featuring a whole new biome, several new blocks, and a new hostile mob. Pale Garden is the new biome in question, and reception of the biome has been a little mixed. For me personally, I love a good pale, washed out biome that contrasts with the bright and colorful locales of the overworld. The new hostile mob, the Creaking, is a genuinely unique mob taking inspiration from nature and Weeping Angels from Doctor Who, so that's pretty cool. It does not move while the player is making eye contact with it. It only moves when the player is not looking at it. While the mob itself is not affected by any kind of physical attack, it does have a connection to the trees that it seems to be born from. The Creaking Heart is a new block that is essentially, well, the heart of the new Creaking mob. Destroying the heart will cause the mob to disappear. Of course, with the new biome comes a new wood type. This time we got our first white wood set called Pale Oak, as a seemingly contrasting version of Dark Oak, which I quite like. This is a very nice wood set, and I love to see a new set of white blocks in Minecraft. New building blocks in a game primarily about building and making your own experiences is never a bad thing. Some smaller features include new moss carpet that affects walls, as well as new hanging moss. Both look really great, although I do hope Mojang allows these new moss blocks to change color depending on what biome you're in. That'd be really nice and very, very easy to do. Overall, I quite like this update. It does feel more modded than anything I think we've seen since the announcement of the Warden, but the Warden has grown on me, and I think the Creaking will grow on me as well. What I really want to talk about today is how some of the community is responding to this update. While some are really happy about the new content, others are expressing that the update just feels like a nothing burger. They've had all this time to make new updates, and all they can give us is a tiny new biome with trees that basically look like dark oak trees and a mob that has no drop. Sure, the update seems okay for builders, but what about the rest of us? A lot of these criticisms are just bad, and they lack any nuance. While I don't mean to white knight for the multi-billion-dollar company too much, Mojang is far from lazy, and this update is fine, actually. This exposes one of the biggest hypocritical points coming from Minecraft's detractors. Updates either take too long or aren't big enough. For a long time, these people were screaming that Mojang was lazy because they would only update the game once a year, ignoring the fact that updating a game across 2 different coding languages and accounting for many different types of hardware and different operating systems and so many other things might actually make updating the game a little bit more challenging to do than one might think. These people typically said that the game was updated more frequently and with better quality back when Notch was still running the company. Need I remind everyone that the reason Notch stepped down as head programmer and later sold the company is because fans incessantly complained to him about every single new update to the game. And honestly, I don't blame him. I would quit too. But I digress. With this new update system harkening back to the good old days of Minecraft, these detractors were seemingly elated. However, upon seeing that more frequent updates would result in smaller updates, they came to a conclusion that only a toddler would come to, which is that Mojang is lazy not because the updates take too long anymore, but now because they aren't adding enough. You can't really have your cake and eat it too, folks. If you want big updates, those will take time. If you want more frequent updates, they are going to be smaller. You can't rush developers. That's not a good thing to do. That's how you get bad content and buggy messes. And this is doubly so when you consider the fact that updates have been free and always will be. If you don't like the things they're adding, you can play older versions of Minecraft and mod it to your liking. I also want to make something crystal clear. Saying, defending a multi-billion-dollar company blah, 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 isn't a real argument against me. Rather than addressing the arguments being made out of fear of being wrong, it's far easier to just vaguely gesture that something sounds bad. And let's be clear, it's not inherently bad to defend the actions of a corporation, no matter the size. It's also not inherently good. It doesn't have any implications. Furthermore, I would argue that I'm not really defending the corporate entity that is Mojang Studios. I'd say I'm defending the people who worked there 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, for the past 15 years to deliver us content for free when there was never any precedent to do so. Notch could have released 1.0 in 2011 and said, okay modders, have fun, but they didn't. They chose to keep going, and now we've got a ton of new content over the past 15 years, and we're going to get even more in the future. Remember, free content is never a given in this industry. And just saying because it was free it should always be free is an appeal to tradition and a logical fallacy. Just because they have been free doesn't mean that Mojang is at any obligation to keep them free. These people are the equivalent of children screaming because they didn't get their chicken nuggets. Bitch, the food is free. You're not paying for it, your parents are. 90% of the people who call Mojang lazy have never coded a thing in their lives, and those who have don't really account for the things in the updates like I mentioned earlier, like different operating systems, 2 different coding languages, all different kinds of hardware, and so much more. All this is to say, please stop whining about getting new blocks. I can't take it anymore. Am I getting too heated? Yeah, probably a little bit. Is it good for my mental health? Probably not. Am I doing this for a comedic effect and being hyperbolic? Yes. In all seriousness, no, I do think some people in the Minecraft community are only a part of this community to take a metaphorical dump on this game. It's really easy to dislike something, and sometimes it's fun to argue with people about why you dislike it and how they're wrong for enjoying it. I get that. Everyone does it every once in a while on the internet. We all are guilty of it. However, I don't think needlessly trashing the devs for doing the very thing that you've complained about for years is the right move. It signals that you have no principles and that you don't even know what you want from this game. If you want more content, you could download mods or add-ons from the marketplace if you're on Bedrock. I'm sorry. Yeah, the marketplace sucks, but it's an option. Otherwise, just shut up about the content in the updates. They're fine. If you guys were complaining about the game's performance more than you were about the new mod they add every year, your little group might have more merit. But no, let's whine about the fact that they didn't put crabs or penguins in the game over and over and over again. You don't need to defend Mojang at every point. You also don't need to hate on them at every point. There is more nuance to this. You could think that the update is okay and still like the blocks while criticizing the fact that Mojang hasn't done anything to improve the performance of the game since like 1.15, and they've pretty much just left the rest up to modders to figure out. That's a bad thing. That's not good. That's called nuance, when we can praise one thing someone does while also calling out the bad things that they do. And if you want to call them lazy because they added one biome and one new wood type, then I have no problem calling you entitled and unempathetic. If you want to call them lazy for not fixing their game and leaving it up to modders to do, that's a valid point, and I would probably agree with you there. But the more you complain about the things that don't really hurt the game in any way and only add new content for free, the less I care about what you have to say, and the more unhinged you sound. Moral of today's story: don't complain about free shit. It's free, okay? Complain about the fact that they aren't fixing their game. That's something to complain about. Not a new wood type. Jesus Christ.